I'm spiritually reminded of the thoughtless minds of me, intertwined with the idea that people only cry my name when they're in distress, but I confess that despite my children's ways, I'm always thinking of you. I think about my children the way trees think about seeding and leaves think about leaving. I think about my children the way mountains think about being highly and rock climbers think about holding tightly. I think about my children the way water thinks about flowing and nature thinks about growing. I think about my children the way clocks think about time, though I'm the director of every hour, minute of every second, I am thinking of you. I think about my children the way bears think about tearing arms and people think about bearing arms. I'm thinking about my children the way Google thinks about searching and Twitter thinks about perching. I think about my children the way couples think about the mood and love thinks about ooh. I think about my children the way diamonds think about shining brightly and Rihanna thinks about shining brightly. I think about my children the way planets think about orbiting and the galaxy thinks about competing with the iPhone. I think about my children the way altitude thinks about getting high and smokers think about getting high. I think about my children the way the blind think about seeing and the seeing think about not going blind even though they're blind to believing. I think about my children the way bombs think about exploding and enemies think about avoiding. I think about my children the way Batman thinks about Joker and Joker thinks about joking. I think about my children the way vibrations think about shaking and earth thinks about quaking. I think about my children the way hearts think about beating, the way eyes think about seeing, the way poets think about reading lines and rappers think about making rhymes, so I can't get you all off my mind. I'm always thinking of you. I think about my children the way minds think about knowledge and diplomas think about college. I think about my children the way revenge thinks about getting even and math thinks about getting even. I think about my children the way Genesis thinks about the beginning and the world thinks about sinning. All these worldly things clinging on to the intestines of sin, but are my children thinking of the essence of my presence? I'm thinking about my children the way Goliath thought about breaking bones and David thought about throwing stones. I'm thinking about my children the way Ezekiel was thinking about spitting bars and Joseph was thinking about being behind bars. I'm thinking about my children the way tax collectors were thinking about counting money and the way Thomas thought about doubting. Funny, I'm thinking about my children the way Noah thought about building an ark and the way Jonah thought about swimming with the sharks. I'm thinking about my children the way the Israelites thought about not knowing what to do and the way my son thought about dying for you. But how much are you thinking about me? You're probably out in the world right now wondering who's thinking about you, but let me remind thy children that I'm always thinking of you.